These twin sisters received completely different treatment. The older sister wore high-end leather shoes, while the younger sister wore worn-out cloth shoes, because of her mother's favoritism towards the older sister. Every morning before going to school, she would prepare all kinds of supplements for her. The younger sister, who was watching, wanted to drink them too, so she said she might be sick too. But her mother felt her forehead and then slapped her on the face. It was precisely because of the different treatment at home that the two had completely opposite personalities. That day, the school held a student council meeting. Doyeon looked at herself in the servant's dress she was playing and saw her sister dressed as a beautiful heroine. She even showed a vicious expression. Then she walked towards her sister and said that she had to go over the lines, so she pulled the boy who was chatting with her sister away. However, Doyeon accidentally tripped over her own skirt. Then she said that her sister had stepped on her skirt. Her sister quickly denied that she had done it, but Doyeon was convinced that it was her sister who had stepped on her. She even asked the boy next to her, and the boy also said that she had tripped over accidentally. Doyeon even shamelessly said that they were lying. Her younger sister didn't want to deal with her and planned to leave, but Doyeon stepped on her younger sister's skirt. The boy helped June and stood up for her. Doyeon saw that someone was backing up her younger sister and turned around and left. June noticed that her sister's skirt had a tear in it. Doyeon also noticed that her skirt was torn. Then she even asked her younger sister to give her skirt. June was not willing to lose, and also tugged at her skirt, until the teacher walked in. When the sisters stopped hurting each other, but both of them were unwilling and glared at each other menacingly. At this time, the couple outside were waiting excitedly for the performance to begin. Soon the curtain on the stage opened and Doyeon was seen mopping the floor, which made the children in the audience laugh. At this time, June, who was playing the protagonist, came on stage. Doyeon angrily threw away the rag in her hand and said that she was the protagonist. The sudden change in the script left June at a loss for words. Doyeon, however, glanced at the parents' seats and then fainted. The parents in the audience were as nervous as could be, and the teacher hurriedly went up. June heard her classmates gossiping that her sister was faking her fainting, but she still clarified for her sister, saying that her sister had been sick in the morning. Doyeon had just returned home from school when her mother scolded her for stepping on her sister's skirt. Doyeon stood next to her mother with a smug look on her face. June said she hadn't, but her mother still defended Doyeon. The husband questioned his wife as to why she favored the eldest daughter. The wife said that the eldest daughter was born after much difficulty. Doyeon was watching TV while June was folding laundry. June questioned her sister as to why she didn't do anything. Her sister told her that if she got sick, she wouldn't have to do anything either. The sisters had a big fight. As time passed, the only thing that remained unchanged were the 2 pairs of shoes at the door. June became a clerk in a company, and her mother continued to favor Doyeon as usual. She even found a rich family for her. As a result, Doyeon became the young leader of the company, but June was laid off due to the company's downturn. One day, June was looking for the bathroom when she was suddenly startled by someone rushing past her. She complained about why the other person was in such a hurry and then walked into the bathroom. At the same time, a man also walked in. The man searched door after door and found that there was only one person in the pit. He knocked on the bathroom door and someone inside knocked back. When the person inside came out, he embraced the other person's neck and found that it was actually a woman. The man pressed June against the wall and then slowly let go of her. June, however, directly attacked his crotch. The man was about to explain when June asked him what he was doing in the women's bathroom. The man had no choice but to say that it was the men's bathroom. June felt extremely embarrassed after hearing this. The man said he was sorry and left. June was still doubting her life, but the person who came in was shocked. She picked up her bag to hide her face and left awkwardly. She also looked back at the sign on the door to make sure she really had made a mistake. On the way home, June received an invitation for an interview. This made her very happy after being unemployed for 2 days, but just happened to meet a student being carried away. She asked the other party why they were doing this and June realized that it was the man she met in the bathroom. She turned her head embarrassedly but heard the student say that he was kidnapped. June thought of the scene of the man strangling her neck and immediately shouted that the police were coming. Then she walked carefully towards home but once again met that man. June immediately sent out a cry for help but the man covered her mouth. At this time a group of young men ran over. It turned out that Taemin was a taekwondo instructor. June tried to sneak away but Taemin stopped her. Taemin asked her why she was meddling in other people's business. June was speechless. When she got home, her mother told her to clean up her sister's room. June reluctantly went to her sister's room. What greeted her eyes was a room full of clothes, with clothes all over the bed and floor. June just wanted to tidy up when she heard Doyeon come home. It turned out to be Doyeon's fiancé returning from abroad with gifts for them both. June angrily came out and told Doyeon to clean up herself. Doyeon, however, threw the gifts at her. The next day, Doyeon received a call from her future father-in-law, asking June to help write her autobiography. Doyeon was afraid that her younger sister would say bad things about her at her in-laws' house, so she refused directly. Because she pretends to be a good wife and mother at her in-laws' house, Her room at home is a mess. Doyeon hides behind her mother and says her sister looks shabby. June rushes up and tries to teach her sister a lesson. Her mother stops them in the middle. Doyeon throws a pillow at her sister. June is not far behind and starts fighting back. They don't stop hurting each other until their father walks in. But her mother persuades June to find another job. Doyeon mocks her from the side. Although June doesn't want to give up this opportunity, she still goes to another company for an interview. But when the interviewer brought a dog into the room, June looked at the fluffy animal but her eyes just widened. And the interviewer even put the dog on the ground. June was so scared that she jumped onto a stool and fell down. When she went to the pharmacy, she met the student who was kidnapped yesterday. June greeted the other person and the student recognized her and invited June to dinner at the restaurant where he worked. To thank June for saving her life, the student gave her a plate of free pan-fried dumplings. June wanted to call over the man who had grabbed him yesterday and deliberately tripped the student. And then she listened to their conversation from the sidelines. The student was a trainee at a men's taekwondo school. Taemin just wanted him to go back and compete. After the meal, Taemin invited June for coffee and also invited her to take the bus with him. But by this time the bus had already reached the stop, but June hadn't finished her coffee. Taemin told her to get on first. The two of them looked at each other on the bus. Suddenly there was a sudden break and June spilled her coffee on the passenger's crotch. June quickly took off her scarf to help wipe it off. Taemin, however, simply took off his shirt to help wipe the other person's pants, and was even glad that the coffee was not hot. Soon the two sat down. Taemin noticed that June's foot was injured. June said she had accidentally fallen and took out a wound sticker, but the car shook a little and she pasted it crookedly. Taemin took it over and carefully put it on for her. The two were a little embarrassed. June asked him to take his shirt back. Taemin said it was okay, but June still felt guilty. Taemin, however, asked June to treat him to dinner. June readily agreed. The two hit it off immediately and immediately made a date to have dinner together the next night. After dinner, Taemin planned to walk her home. June refused, saying, "My dad will be waiting for me at the door. It's not good if I'm seen," and then realized that she still didn't know the other person's name. After the two of them introduced themselves to each other, they walked in opposite directions. June suddenly stopped in her tracks and saw a cute little dog in front of her. June was scared and screamed, turned around and ran back. The dog chased after her. Taemin didn't know what was going on. June jumped and landed on him. Taemin didn't know what to do, but June told him to run. He then came back to his senses, stopped thinking about it, hugged June and ran until they came to a cabinet. He put June on it, and Taemin then picked up the puppy. June was so scared that she was trembling. Taemin noticed that the puppy must have gotten lost. June asked if they should go to the police, but the puppy barked at her. She told Taemin to go first. Taemin had not gone far when the owner of the puppy came looking for it. Taemin gave the dog to the woman, but she thought he was the thief. June saw this and walked up to the woman and scolded her, but the woman ignored them and left. June wanted to chase after her, but Taemin stopped her. The next day they went to the cinema to watch a movie. Doyeon and her fiancé also came to the cinema. Taemin went to the bathroom alone but met Doyeon's fiancée Miho, and the two of them actually knew each other, but they have a grudge against each other. It turned out that both of them were taekwondo players, but during a competition, Miho's family was relatively wealthy and his father paid off the referee to let him win the competition. The two then met in the hallway. As they were both young and arrogant, Taemin could not stand the other person's arrogance. He kicked Miho in the bridge of the nose. Afterwards, Taemin's father brought him to apologize, but Miho's father was not going to compromise. Taemin's father even knelt on the ground and was willing to give up the right to compete for a house. Taemin angrily took away the guarantee his father wrote to the other party and tore it up. Therefore, he also lost the qualification to participate in the competition forever. Since then, the two families not only have the grudges of the younger generation, but also the irreconcilable feud over the real estate of the previous generation. That day, June's mother came to the luxury goods store dressed in simple clothes. It turned out that Miho's mother was there to choose her daughter's wedding dowry. The salesperson took out a pair of high-end watches and June's mother asked in a low voice, "How much is this?" Before long, Miho's mother told the salesperson to take the most expensive one. June's mother's eyes widened directly. At this time, her phone rang. She hurriedly went out to answer it, but she didn't want to hear even more bad news. June's mother's investment money had been embezzled and the person who had taken it had run away. It also included the money for her daughter's dowry. June's mother hurried over there, but accidentally bumped into another person. She picked up a bag on the ground and ran. When she arrived at her destination, a few aunties were anxiously waiting. Obviously, they were all victims, but now they could not find the culprit. After returning home, June's mother was devastated. She was afraid to tell her family. She could only quietly call an acquaintance. But her daughter June happened to hear it, but she was afraid to say anything. June had to give up. Then she thought that June might be relatively wealthy, so she went to June again and told her sad story. But June didn't want to lend her any money. At that time, Doyeon also returned home and showed her wedding photo to her mother. She introduced her expensive diamond ring, which her fiancé gave her. Her mother sighed and said, "Luckily, The wedding dress was given by my son-in-law, but Doyeon asked her mother to give more dowry. Jun felt speechless after hearing this. Her mother took the opportunity to leave. Jun then asked her sister if she had any money to help her mother pay for the wedding. Doyeon told Jun to mind her own business. Jun said her mother had told her the dowry wasn't enough. The two sisters started arguing again. The next day, Doyeon went to the bank to apply for a loan, but was told her credit rating was too low. She then immediately went to see her future mother-in-law. Her mother-in-law said the wedding hall had already been booked. Do you know that the cost is half and half? Doyeon was stunned and didn't hear what her mother-in-law said next. Meanwhile, Jun was on the phone in the office her father-in-law had prepared for her. Doyeon stormed in angrily. The twins immediately started arguing as soon as they saw each other. They found it wasn't enough to just argue, so they started to fight. At this time, father-in-law and mother-in-law outside the door happened to hear everything. Jun noticed someone outside and quickly hugged her sister. Doyeon, however, pushed her sister away. Jun said, "Your father-in-law and mother-in-law are here." And the two immediately jumped up cheerfully. When Doyeon's father-in-law and mother-in-law came in, they looked happy. The chairman asked them what was so happy. Doyeon, however, said that Jun had found a boyfriend. Jun only gritted her teeth and cooperated with her. Her mother-in-law said, "I just saw you two pulling each other's hair." Jun was on her way home. An old woman was buying fruit but accidentally dropped her money. She saw it and quickly ran over to help the old woman pick up the money on the ground. Unexpectedly, a gust of wind was about to blow one piece into the sewer. Jun pounced over, but almost got hit by a motorcycle. She quickly apologized to the driver. The old woman ran over to her side. Jun carefully put the money away for her. The old woman took one look at her and asked how old she was, but she didn't know that Jun was in a hurry to go on a date with her grandson. But Jun waited at the cinema for a long time but didn't see Taemin. At this time, her mother called her because Doyeon was sick and asked her to go buy some medicine. Jun just wanted to leave when Taemin called again and said she was rushing over right now, but Jun had to go home. The two agreed to meet again the next day. Jun returned home, but Doyeon was lying in bed. Since Jun refused to lend her money, she threw a pillow at Jun. The next day, Doyeon vomited in the bathroom. She just wanted to stand up, but suddenly fainted on the ground. Jun opened the door and came in, and found Doyeon lying on the ground. An ambulance soon arrived. Jun was about to go to the hospital with the ambulance, but her mother pushed her away and glared at her angrily. Fortunately, Doyeon was not seriously injured. After being examined, she returned home. However, she still blamed Jun because Jun planned to study painting abroad, and her mother had lost her dowry money again. Doyeon asked Jun to give her money to buy a dowry first because Jun did not have extra funds to lend to her, which caused her to be stressed and fall ill. Jun gave her the cooked porridge to eat, but she simply kicked it over. Doyeon scolds her for not listening to her. Jun is on the phone talking about going abroad when Doyeon overhears her. Doyeon angrily goes to Jun's room. She looks at a painting that symbolizes Jun's dream and tears it down. Then she tears the painting into shreds. Jun comes in and finds the torn painting, but she is not angry. She just squats on the ground picking up the shredded paper, but Doyeon keeps scolding her. At this time, her mother also returned home. She heard the crying sound from the room and hurriedly walked in, looking at Doyeon crying on the bed. Her mother even began to blame Jun and said that she didn't cook porridge for Doyeon to eat. After Doyeon's rant, her mother asked what the reason was. Doyeon said it was tearing down Jun's poster. Learning that it was for a picture, her mother began to blame Jun again, and said that she borrowed Jun's dowry money. But Jun looked down on her. Then she also lay on the bed and wept loudly. Jun looked at her mother in this state and her heart was not good. Then her mother smashed all the things in the room on the ground. Jun sat in the corner and cried alone. At this time, the phone rang. It turned out to be Taemin who wanted to ask her out, but Jun was completely out of the mood. Taemin, however, said that he had something to give her and asked her to come out and get it. He heard that Jun was going abroad, so Taemin specially bought a suitcase for her. Seeing the suitcase, Jun became sad again because she had already left her passbook with her mother, and ultimately she chose to give up her dream. Although Jun could not go abroad to study, Taemin felt that this was a good thing. Jun wanted him to be a good person, but Taemin wanted to be a bad guy for once. Then Taemin said those 3 words, "I love you." Jun gave up her dream but also had her own love. She leaned on Taemin's broad shoulders. The unpleasant memories of the past also disappeared at that moment. Jun returned home with her suitcase. Her mother and sister walked in. Although they had had a fight during the day, they were still family. Her mother was also worried about Jun. Her sister had also promised to pay back the money after the wedding. Hearing the two of them apologize, Jun was also relieved. After all, they were blood relatives. Jun opened the suitcase that Taemin had given her. Inside were all kinds of necessities that had been thoughtfully prepared for her. Seeing the two of them in sync, Jun gave a sweet smile. The next day, the two went on another date. Taemin specially brought a puppy to help Jun ease her inner fears, but Jun was still scared. Her body shifted involuntarily. Then the two of them started showing off their love again. The puppy on the side watched the whole thing. Doyeon, on the other side, had also prepared the necessities for marriage, but when she saw what was under the table, she suddenly screamed. It turned out that she had prepared the wrong dowry. Her mother mistakenly gave the inferior goods to her in-laws. The real dowry was still sitting at home. Doyeon fainted directly on the bed after learning that the goods had already been sent. Her mother went up and slapped her twice, but she didn't respond. She brought another glass of water and sprayed it in Doyeon's face. On the other side, the mother-in-law had already put on the gifts sent to her, but she didn't realize that all of them were low-quality products. Doyeon sat on the bed in a miserable state. If her mother-in-law found out, she would lose face. Her mother could only pray that she wouldn't find out and quietly replace them after the wedding. Soon it was the wedding day. The two of them slowly walked towards the altar. On their first wedding night, Miho couldn't wait to rub his hands together and looked at his wife, who was still washing up. He quickly got up and did push-ups. Doyeon also sprays perfume. Her heart is both nervous and excited. Watching the figure of his wife coming out, Miho's eyes are wide open. The two can't wait to start acting. Suddenly Miho says his leg is a little cramped, and then the two finally get down to business. The next morning, Doyeon dislikes wearing the hanbok. Miho, however, thinks about the plan to make a baby. The mother-in-law has just passed by the door and hears the noise inside. At this time, inside the room, Miho was wearing Doyeon's skirt and looked graceful. When the mother-in-law pushed the door open, Doyeon immediately stood up. Her younger sister was also spitting out Miho's antics. Then, the mother-in-law suddenly asked Doyeon what the price of the bag she gave her was. Doyeon thought it was a fake bag she was given, but then realized her mistake. Fortunately, the mother-in-law just asked and didn't say anything more. Before leaving, mother-in-law repeatedly told her not to let Miho get too tired. Doyeon looked at the golden watch on father-in-law's wrist and thought to herself that she had to find a chance to replace it. That night, while everyone was asleep, she quietly went to father-in-law's desk. The box in her hand accidentally fell to the ground. Luckily, mother-in-law only muttered in her sleep. Doyeon took out the fake watch and put the real one back in the drawer. When she came out, she was discovered by her husband's sister. Doyeon immediately hid the gift box and made up an excuse to deal with it. The next day, a new shopping mall opened, and Taemin brought his team to perform, but he found that there was already another group of people. Through questioning, he learned that the shopping mall was exactly opened by Miho, and he and Miho are enemies from generation to generation. At this time, Jun came over and even called Miho brother-in-law. Taemin then realized that his girlfriend's brother-in-law was actually his biggest enemy in life. Doyeon learned about it and went to her sister Jun's office to scold her for dating a violent player. Back then, Taemin broke Miho's nose. It was also because of this that he could not go to college and became a taekwondo coach. Jun was also extremely shocked when she heard it, but she still couldn't believe it. She thought there must be some reason for it. She planned to ask Taemin to find out. On the other hand, her mother went directly to Taemin and asked him to break up with Jun. Taemin ran out of the house and looked at the phone. Jun called him, but he didn't answer. At this time, Jun came to his taekwondo school. Although she didn't find Taemin, she got the answer she wanted from his apprentice. Back then, Miho bribed the referee to win the game. Taemin was so angry that he kicked Miho in the nose. Jun just returned home and heard her mother and sister taunting her. Jun then storms out of the house. She is determined to find Taemin and ask him what's going on. She goes to Taemin's dojo again, but it's closed. Jun is walking alone in the park when she sees Taemin sitting on a bench. She shyly asks Taemin to marry her. Taemin, however, tells her that they should break up. Jun can't believe her ears. She says that she can stop seeing her sister's family from now on. When she was little, she already said that she wouldn't see her sister if she got married. Taemin said, "You're such a heartless person. I can't do it. I've never imagined a life without seeing my family. I can't believe you're such a woman. You really disappoint me." Taemin's attitude was still to break up. Jun immediately chased after her, but she could no longer see Taemin's figure. Taemin, however, was hiding in a corner, crying alone. The next day, the two sisters met in the bathroom. Doyeon, in order to let Jun break up, planned to sponsor Jun to study abroad. While Jun's current goal has changed, the two then began to argue, and as they argued they began to fight. Jun didn't want to deal with her and planned to leave. Doyeon, however, grabbed a plate and smashed it on her sister's back of the head. Jun grabbed the weapon in her sister's hand and tried to vent the grievances she had suffered for many years. Then she slammed the door shut and prepared to teach her sister a good lesson. Seeing her sister lock the door, Doyeon finally showed a hint of panic. In a flash, Doyeon was sitting on the toilet shivering, while Jun was blocking her outside the door. At this time, a colleague outside was also knocking on the door. Jun warned her sister, "If you want to live quietly, don't mess with me." Then Jun turned around and left, but just happened to meet Taemin, and when Taemin saw her, he hurriedly got into the elevator. Jun immediately ran over, opened the elevator door, and got in. She asked Taemin if he was threatened by Miho to break up with her, but Taemin didn't want to answer. It seems that he has something in the other person's hands. Taemin withdrew the hand that Jun was holding and then walked out of the elevator. Jun was walking alone in the park and saw a couple crossing the street. She recalled the happy memories she had with Taemin. At this time, an old lady in the park suffered from dementia. She took a cotton candy at a stall and was about to turn away, but the owner yelled, and the old lady was so scared that she sat on the ground. This scene happened to be seen by June. She was worried and immediately went up to help the old lady up. This is the same old lady she met last time, but the old lady was in such a state that she didn't recognize June. June had to send her home through the patrol police. After seeing that the old lady was safe, June planned to leave, but the old lady tried hard to remember something and insisted on taking her to eat before leaving. Just then, Taemin also rushed back. Jun brought back Taemin's grandmother, and at this time, the old lady also came to her senses and said that Jun is the prospective granddaughter-in-law she has been eyeing. Taemin tried to pull Jun away, but the grandmother grabbed Jun and wouldn't let go. The grandmother thought that such a good girl who came on her own shouldn't be missed. Doyeon was trying on clothes in a shopping mall. Then she got a phone call and hurriedly ran out, but she forgot the clothes she was wearing she hadn't changed back. When she got halfway to the car, she realized that the clothes she was wearing were not right. If people found out that the daughter-in-law of a wealthy family in the mall stole clothes, they would definitely be kicked out of the house. So she decided to hurry and return the clothes. When she returned to the entrance of the mall again, she saw a police car just enter. Doyeon didn't expect the store to report the police so quickly, so she called her mother again. After learning the situation, her mother immediately rushed over and planned to ask Jun to come over. On the other side, Jun is dating Taemin, who has just reconciled with her. Jun thinks something happened to her mother and rushes home. Doyeon, who has just returned, unexpectedly asks Jun to take responsibility for her. Her mother also persuades Jun. Subsequently, Doyeon kneels directly on the ground. Her mother also kneels down and begs Jun. Seeing that Jun does not agree, they even promise to let her marry Taemin. Jun hears that she will no longer hinder her relationship with Taemin and agrees. They went to the police station and eventually the shop owner agreed to settle. Then Jun found Taemin, and they set a date for their parents to meet. However, on the day of the meeting, the grandmother poured a bottle of shower gel on the floor in the bathroom. Not long after, Jun's mother came out and found that she had run out of shower gel. Taemin's mother looked over and saw that it was her shower gel that was missing. They looked at each other and couldn't believe their eyes. Last time, they bumped into each other at the mall and took the wrong things. This time, they took each other's shower gel. The two immediately argued and ended up parting on bad terms. When she got home, her mother told Jun that she had met a cheeky auntie. Jun also took her mother's side, but she didn't know that the person was her future mother-in-law. In the restaurant, Taemin's family were waiting. Jun's family were also on their way. Taemin quickly came out to greet them. After the mothers of both sides met and exchanged greetings, they stared at each other in disbelief. Taemin's mother was the first to say that this wedding would be considered as if it had never happened. The mother grabs Jun and they try to leave. Taemin tries to stop them but is stopped by his mother. The parents of both sides part on bad terms, leaving the two of them alone. Then the father calls. The two fathers are also racking their brains for the happiness of their children. They deliberately ask their respective wives out to meet, but both of them put on a haughty appearance and just don't want to admit fault first. Seeing that the two are about to fall out, the two fathers rush in. At this time, Jun and Taemin also rush over, so the two sides start meeting again. In order to reconcile the two, Taemin's father deliberately knocked over the juice, and Jun's father did the same. The two mothers immediately panicked and ran to the bathroom to wash their clothes. They both took a piece of soap at the same time. They were expected to argue, but they started to give way to each other. When they came out again, they had reconciled and agreed to their children's wedding. The wedding day soon arrived. The father handed Jun's hand to Taemin, but as they walked towards the altar, a child tugged on Jun's wedding dress. The family and friends in the audience were shocked to see this. Fortunately, Taemin caught his wife in time to save the embarrassment. The next day, Jun returned from her parents' house to her mother-in-law's house. While her husband went to get the luggage, Jun took a look at the courtyard scenery. Suddenly, a small dog sat on the ground and barked at her twice. Jun was scared and started spinning around the table. The little dog chased after her and played with her. The father-in-law came out to investigate the noise, but Jun jumped straight onto the table and then threw herself into the father-in-law's arms. The father-in-law was so shocked that he didn't know where to put his hands and just froze in place. When the family came running out, they saw this strange scene. Taemin quickly picked up the puppy, while his sister was laughing on the side. Jun then realized that she was still sitting on the father-in-law's shoulders. She jumped off father-in-law's body and sat on the ground. Taemin helped her up and explained to everyone that Jun was afraid of dogs. Grandma also asked Jun concernedly if she had fallen and hurt her bottom. Back in their room, the two were just about to have some time alone, when her aunt suddenly pushed open the door and laughed loudly. The two were just about to get down to business when Grandma yelled again. The next day, Jun got up early to help father-in-law get the newspaper. Then she went to Grandma's room to help fold the quilt. Doyeon, on the other hand, is in a different situation. She has to let her husband hold the phone when someone calls, and her mother-in-law asks her to get up and cook, but she refuses, saying she wants to go home. Jun is doing the housework, but her mother-in-law tells her not to overdo it. She wants to go back to her parents' house to get something, and her mother-in-law readily agrees. Jun has just returned to her parents' house and discovers that her sister has already returned. She had just changed her shoes and came in, but she happened to hear the family discussing her in-laws and Doyeon's in-laws. Since the two families had been feuding for 3 generations, the family was discussing a solution. Her father hoped that they could reconcile, but her sister wanted June to divorce. June said that her sister's in-laws were liars who had stolen her in-laws' ancestral home. Doyeon also said that her sister's in-laws were wrong. Both of them believed that their in-laws were not at fault. Doyeon said but began to fight. June was not willing to give in. Both grabbed the other's hair. But since childhood, my mother has favored the older daughter. Doyeon could not beat her sister, so she cried out for her mother. Mom also quickly came in to stop, but no matter how Mom stopped the two of them this time, they were not going to let go. Until Dad walked in. Doyeon wanted her sister to divorce. June said if you want a divorce, you should divorce first. But Dad told them to cut off all ties with their family and never come back. June saw that her father was really angry and hurriedly chased after him. Her father was sitting alone in the courtyard. June went up and took the initiative to admit her mistake. Her father hoped that his children would all be happy and not become enemies whenever they met. But he was also worried about June's writing an autobiography about her sister for her father-in-law. If her in-laws found out, June would not be able to get out of it. Doyeon and her mother also came out. June asked her sister to apologize to her father. Doyeon also took the initiative to lower her head and admit her mistake to her father. The two sisters finally agreed to reconcile and each hide the fact that they are related from their respective in-laws. But that day, June's father-in-law's cafe opened and it happened to be seen by Doyeon's father-in-law. And June also came to the cafe. Miho's father greeted her across the street, and father-in-law was also calling her. Unable to do anything, June immediately hid. If the two enemies from 3 generations found out, the whole family would be torn apart. June called her husband to ask him to stop her father-in-law from coming over. Meanwhile, Miho hurriedly drove over to pick up his father. June let out a sigh of relief only after Miho's father had left. But just then, her mother and Doyeon's mother-in-law drove over. Seeing the cafe entrance, her mother hurriedly blocked the car window. Doyeon's mother-in-law thought her arm was broken, but her mother said she was just shielding her from the sun. After getting out of the car, she muttered, June's family and yours are enemies. Because you are enemies, I have a hard time being in the middle. On the weekend, June and Taemin went to her parents' house with fresh abalone, but while they were eating, the doorbell rang. June opened the door and saw it was Doyeon's father-in-law and mother-in-law. She quickly and loudly informed her parents in the house. In order to continue hiding their relationship, June told her husband to quickly hide in the utility room. While her mother dealt with the two of them in the living room, Taemin hid his head and hid in the utility room. Suddenly, June pushed open the door and hit him on the head again. June told him to stay there and not make a sound and then also came to the living room. Miho's mother had never met Taemin before and wanted to meet him. June could only say that she had come alone. Miho's father said, your husband is so precious. It's hard to see him. Just as June turned her head, she noticed that his wedding photo with Taemin was still on the table. When her mother looked back, her eyes also widened. She also used the excuse of going back to her room to get something to secretly take June's wedding photo. At this time, Taemin, who was hiding inside, felt too hot and wanted to open the window, but accidentally broke it. The few people were suddenly startled by the sudden noise. June's mother quickly explained that it was a stray cat that had come to steal food. Fortunately, Miho's parents didn't stay long and left. The next day, June's mother came to Miho's house to cook. Doyeon returned home and found that her mother had become a maid. At this time, the mother-in-law also came over and said, it wasn't me who asked her to cook. Doyeon took her mother and wanted to leave. Miho also asked his mother-in-law to return to her own home. Watching her mother's back as she left, Doyeon finally became sad. At the dinner table, everyone was discussing how delicious the food was, thinking that the family had hired a new nanny. The mother-in-law asked Doyeon why she wasn't eating, as it was the result of her mother's hard work for the day. Doyeon finally couldn't hold back any longer and overturned the food in one go. She then went to the bathroom and threw up. Doyeon thought about it and felt a little sorry for her mother. She also secretly vowed that she must not let her mother suffer anymore. On the other side, June was looking for something to eat in the middle of the night when she saw someone crouching on the floor. She let out a scream. Taemin heard the noise and immediately ran out of the room. Father-in-law, mother-in-law also came out to check the situation. June turned on the kitchen light but picked up a mop with her eyes closed. It turned out that her grandmother had dementia and was crouching on the ground eating kimchi. June found out it was her grandmother and went up to comfort her. But her grandmother kept yelling that the bad woman had taken her food and her family's ancestral home. June knew that the bad woman her grandmother was talking about was their family's 3-generation enemy. But father-in-law, mother-in-law still didn't know that their enemy was also June's sisters-in-law. Seeing June reassure her grandmother, everyone felt relieved. June didn't want her in-laws to know that she worked for their enemy, so she went to the chairman and submitted her resignation. But then a lawyer found her, because June had helped the chairman ghostwrite his autobiography. The lawyer's client said it was stealing their family history and hoped June could testify. But his client was June's father-in-law. June immediately wanted to leave after learning this, but before she could go out the door, she ran into her father-in-law who had arrived, and the lawyer said, I hope you'll consider being the writer. At that moment, Taemin also arrived, and her father asked Taemin if June was the writer. June lowered her head and said, "I wrote the autobiography." Father-in-law almost stumbled and couldn't stand straight after hearing this. June hurriedly went up to help him, but father-in-law pushed her hand away. After calming down, father-in-law directly drank a big glass of water. He told June to keep it a secret from mother-in-law for now. Just the two of them knew. Then he left alone. Later, June and her husband discussed this matter. They decided to stop hiding the truth from their family and tell them the truth. Then June went to find her sister to discuss it together. However, Doyeon planned to wait until she got pregnant before telling them. She wanted to leave herself a way out, but Jin didn't want to deceive her in-laws anymore. Their opinions were different, and they immediately argued. This scene was just seen by June's mother-in-law. Although the two had been at odds since they were young, this was the first time they had been seen by their in-laws after getting married. The mother-in-law asked June what was going on. June stammered and didn't want to say. Doyeon, however, deliberately said that it was a conflict with her family. The mother-in-law said, "It's not good that you sisters are living in the same neighborhood and this kind of thing happens." The sisters then continued to discuss the matter with their in-laws. June wanted to tell her own in-laws, but Doyeon planned to continue to hide it. In the end, they didn't agree and the two of them parted in discord. That day, the sisters' families opened new stores, and they deliberately asked their respective families to come congratulate them at different times. However, while June was out shopping, Doyeon's family arrived early. Doyeon hurriedly called June, but there was no answer. Before long, June's family also arrived. When June returned and greeted them, she saw Doyeon's father-in-law and mother-in-law, and at that moment her father-in-law and mother-in-law had also entered. The three generations of enemies froze in place as soon as they met. June's mother still greeted. The relationship between the two families was immediately surprised. Doyeon's family wanted to withdraw from the marriage and her father apologized to them. June's family also left angrily. Miho was just about to arrive at the door when he was kicked by his father. Taemin walked over and also met his parents. His mother scolded him for being a big bad guy. When Miho returned home, his father chased him away with a golf club. His mother also threw a vase on the floor and wanted to drive them out of the house. Taemin knelt down and begged his father, saying that he couldn't be separated from June. Doyeon returned to her parents' home, and June also returned with her luggage. When the two sisters met, they blamed each other and started arguing. Before long, their mother drove the sisters out of the house. June and her husband planned to go to a hotel. Doyeon, however, wanted to go to a hotel with her husband. Even though they were kicked out of their house, the two couples still didn't like each other. Unexpectedly, they forgot to bring their wallets. June and Taemin just watched them make a fool of themselves. Doyeon planned to borrow some money from Taemin. Taemin took out his wallet from his pocket. Miho, however, just reached his hand out. Taemin, however, said that the money would definitely not be enough for the hotel, so the group went to a jjimjilbang. Miho looked at the egg in Taemin's hand and salivated. Taemin plans to share his dinner with them. Doyeon, however, tells her husband not to eat it as it will make him fat. June tells her husband to finish eating and go home first. Doyeon and Miho read books together while they are hungry. Miho, however, plans to go home and cook something. Taemin asks his parents to forgive June. His mother, however, tells them to break off their relationship, or else Taemin will divorce June. Miho, on the other hand, kneels down, but the result given by their parents was the same as Taemin's. Taemin returned to the jjimjilbang and told his wife what their parents had asked. June said she would talk to her sister. Miho, however, brought a few marinated eggs to the jjimjilbang. He also told his wife that their mother wanted them to sever their relationship. Doyeon said she had no problem with that as long as they didn't have to be separated from each other. The next day, the two sisters went to their mother's house and told her that they wanted to sever their relationship, although this was not the result their mother wanted. But she also hopes that they will be accepted by their husbands' families. Subsequently, June goes to see her mother-in-law. The mother-in-law tells her not to tell her grandmother about this. She agrees that June can go home, but it will take some time to get used to it. On the other side, Doyeon is not so easy. She is still locked out of the door by her mother-in-law and treated like a stranger. She has no choice but to go back to her mother's house. However, her mother has drunk a lot because of the sisters. She saw that Doyeon had cut ties with her younger sister but was still unable to return home. She took advantage of her drunken rage to come looking for Miho's mother. When the two met, Miho's mother told Doyeon to go pack her things. She couldn't let her daughter continue living in such a family. Taemin's family's coffee shop was very popular. Miho's parents were sneaking a peek outside the door. Grandma noticed that it was their enemy and sneaked a peek at the door. She then yelled at the other person. When the two saw that it was their grandmother, they tried to escape, but she just threw her walking stick at them. Miho's father saw that it almost hit them and angrily walked back. He insisted that his grandmother apologize to them. His grandmother glared at them angrily. At that moment, June walked out of the store. When she saw the chairman there, she knew something was wrong. The chairman greeted her, but his grandmother didn't understand how they knew each other. After learning the whole story, his grandmother couldn't believe it. The few of them quickly helped his grandmother into the store. Grandma asked what was going on. After getting an answer that it was true, Grandma fainted directly. An ambulance was quickly called. Taemin also wanted to go with them, but his mother pushed him off the car. June stood in place, feeling very self-blame. Fortunately, Grandma's examination showed that she was fine, but when Taemin's mother arrived, she could no longer see Grandma's figure. At this time, Grandma walked alone to the roadside and came to the middle of the road, looking at the vehicles coming and going. Grandma didn't know where she was. She looked around helplessly, but she was just seen by Miho, so he took her back. In the car, Grandma kept talking to Miho, but Miho ignored her. Grandma thought he was a bad guy and grabbed his neck. The car instantly lost control and crashed head-on into a tree by the roadside. Miho got out to check and found that the front of the car had been deformed, while on the other side, Taemin was looking all over for Grandma. He came to Miho's house. At this time, Miho also happened to be back. Taemin asked if Grandma had come to his house, but Miho told him to take a look at his car first. Taemin thought that he had hit his grandmother. He grabbed Miho by the collar. Miho took him to the back seat of the car and found that his grandmother was fine. He then took her back to his house. However, when Doyeon and her mother-in-law learned that the car had been damaged, the two of them went directly to June's in-laws to demand compensation. Taemin's mother was shocked when she saw that 30 million won was being demanded. Unexpectedly, she was overheard by her aunt, who had just returned. She kicked her away and shouted at Doyeon's mother-in-law. Then her aunt brought a basin of water and poured it over her, and they were immediately thrown out. The next day, Jun was helping out at the cafe. Doyeon and her mother-in-law deliberately came here. The two sisters met in the bathroom. Doyeon deliberately approached and spoke. Jun told her not to pretend to know because they had severed ties. Then Doyeon grabbed Jun's hand, but her mother-in-law happened to see it. Her mother-in-law immediately questioned her what she was doing. At this time, Jun's mother-in-law also walked in. Miho's mother immediately said, "It seems that your daughter-in-law and my daughter-in-law haven't sorted out their relationship yet." The grandmother on the other side had also come to her senses. She blamed Taemin for marrying the wrong person. She didn't want to live with the wrong person. Taemin hurriedly explained that Jun was not a relative. The father-in-law told Jun to go to her parents' house first and wait until her grandmother's emotions stabilized before returning. Taemin questioned his wife about whether or not they should go back. Jun, however, said, "I want to be with you." That day, as soon as he returned to the country, the male student found Jun. Minkyu then embraced Jun. Taemin, who was behind them, happened to see this scene. Jun pushed Minkyu away and asked him what he was doing. The two were still chatting, but behind them, Taemin's eyes were already gleaming. He immediately walked up to Jun and asked who this person was. Jun immediately explained that he was a childhood classmate. The two also greeted each other happily, but there was hidden hostility in their eyes. Minkyu asked them to go have coffee, but Taemin directly refused. Minkyu then asked Jun for her phone number. Taemin also looked meaningfully at Minkyu. Jun returned the phone, and then politely said goodbye. Taemin hurriedly took Jun away. But the next day, Jun was helping out at the coffee shop when Minkyu came looking for her and brought a congratulatory gift. Taemin expressed his gratitude. Minkyu wanted to talk to Jun alone, but Jun said she was busy. Minkyu simply took her by the hand and walked out. Taemin grabbed Jun and pushed Minkyu's hand away. He told Minkyu to say whatever he had to say to him face to face. Minkyu also said without any hesitation that he liked Jun. Taemin couldn't believe his ears. He asked Jun to stay in the store and then asked Minkyu to follow him outside. When they arrived at the roadside, Taemin asked him what he wanted. Minkyu said, "I just like Jun." Taemin felt speechless. He then warned him and tried to leave. Unexpectedly, Minkyu was still talking non-stop. Taemin grabbed him by the collar, at which point Jun also ran out and hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Minkyu, however, simply ignored Taemin and even petted Jun on the head before leaving alone. Jun was about to go back in, but Taemin told her not to run around and to go straight home and wash her head. However, as Jun came out, Minkyu was still waiting for her at the door. Minkyu even opened the car door and told Jun to get in. Jun told him to apologize to Taemin, but Minkyu said he was just joking with them. Jun angrily kicked his wheel, but Minkyu simply pushed Jun into the car. This scene was just seen by a shop assistant. Minkyu dropped Jun off at her doorstep, and just before Jun got out of the car, Minkyu suddenly cupped her face. The assistant told Taemin to get into Minkyu's car. Taemin hurriedly took out his phone and called Jun. The next day, Jun and her aunt were out shopping when the machine suddenly started beeping. The clerk hurried over to stop them and asked them to wait a moment, but when they saw someone else come out, the machine didn't respond. The clerk suggested checking the two women's bags. The two were immediately upset that they were being treated like thieves. Jun took out her receipt to show the clerk. After the clerk had checked it, there was no problem, but the aunt couldn't find her own receipt. The clerk reached out to check it. When she saw the clerk trying to touch her, the grumpy aunt immediately became angry, since it was a store owned by her in-laws. The aunt shouted the chairman's name, but it happened to be heard by Doyeon and her mother-in-law. Mrs. Lin immediately came over when she heard someone calling her husband's name. After learning the whole story, she even asked the clerk to check it carefully. The aunt directly yelled, and the scolding attracted the attention of the mall manager. But when she saw Jun, She said that Jun had a history of stealing. Doyeon saw the manager but was hiding. Jun immediately understood that it was her who took responsibility for her sister last time. Mrs. Lin, however, still wanted to pursue the matter. Doyeon shook her head and wanted to let Jun continue to hide, but the manager on the side also felt a bit puzzled when he saw Doyeon. Mrs. Lin asked the manager what was going on. The manager looked at Jun and then at Doyeon. At that moment, a shop assistant said that they only needed to confirm the receipt from the aunt. The aunt dropped the goods on the floor and the shop assistant found the receipt in it. She immediately said that she would sue them for defamation of character. The mother-in-law sent Doyeon away and then returned to find the manager. The manager said that the woman who stole last time was different from this time. In my memory, the woman last time looked very similar to your daughter-in-law. Mrs. Lin looked surprised. Doyeon went to her parents' house. She wanted her mother to keep Jun's mouth shut. Just then, Doyeon's mother-in-law called and said she was already at the door. Her mother told Doyeon to hide in her room and she would deal with it. However, when Mrs. Lin asked her mother once again twisted the truth. She said it was Doyeon's problem, but made it sound like Jun had had a physical stealing disease since she was a child. The next day, Mrs. Lin came to the coffee shop and found Jun. Jun didn't want to talk to her when she saw her. However, Mrs. Lin said, "Are you sick?" The two of them happened to be heard by Jun's mother-in-law. Jun explained that it wasn't her who stole the last time. When she got home, she told her mother-in-law that she was taking the blame for her sister. Her mother-in-law didn't understand why she was protecting Doyeon, so she went to Jun's mother to find out the truth. But before Jun's mother could answer, the doorbell rang. Facing the questioning of the two mothers-in-law, Jun's mother continued to confuse right and wrong. When she got home, her mother-in-law confronted Jun. No matter how Jun explained, her mother-in-law refused to believe her, so Jun decided to go to her mother to find out the truth. But her mother still wanted Jun to keep quiet. Jun didn't want to take the blame and asked her mother to explain it right away. But her mother said that no matter what, she would not explain. Jun said that if her mother didn't explain, she would go to her sister's in-law's house. Finally, her mother picked up the phone and told Jun's mother-in-law what she had done. On the other side, Doyeon took a lipstick from the store and put it directly into her pocket. At this time, the clerk had already discovered her little move, but she still hurriedly ran out. Jun went outside and threw the lipstick in the trash. Since she had suffered from physiological stealing since childhood, whenever she was under too much stress, she would relapse. The next day, she went to the store again and found that there was a surveillance camera posted, but she was afraid to go up and confirm whether she had really stolen something. When she got home, Doyeon hurriedly called her mother to come over and confirm, and her mother-in-law happened to overhear it at the door. The next day, her mother found the store and saw her daughter, Doyeon, looking inside. She was about to negotiate with the store owner when she tried to tear off the surveillance footage, but another hand grabbed it first. Jun's mother, Mrs. Lin, was so shocked to see her. The day before, she had said that her younger daughter, Jun, had the disease of physiological theft. She grabbed the paper in Mrs. Lin's hand and tore it up. Mrs. Lin said, "You think you can fool me by destroying the evidence? This time, you and your daughter are completely finished." Jun's mother tried to explain, but Mrs. Lin pushed her away. She quickly called Doyeon and told her to lock her room door and not to come out. Doyeon immediately locked her door and prayed that her husband could save her. Meanwhile, the mother-in-law had returned home and saw that the door was locked. She couldn't open it, so she went to get the spare key. Doyeon took the quilt and hid in the corner, but she was discovered by her mother-in-law, who came in. The mother-in-law tore the quilt open with one hand, and Doyeon, looking miserable, crouched on the floor, facing the questioning of her father-in-law and mother-in-law. She said she would wait for her husband to return. Soon, Miho also rushed back. Doyeon immediately hid behind him. The mother-in-law told Doyeon to pack her things and leave immediately, but her mother-in-law still tried to shift the blame onto Jun, and refused to believe Jun's explanation. She went to Doyeon's closet and took out the clothes inside. Her mother-in-law asked, "Did you steal these clothes without removing the price tags? I'm so humiliated to have someone like you as my daughter-in-law." Her husband also questioned Jun about what was going on. Jun said that she had paid for all the clothes, but her mother was still explaining that Doyeon was being framed. Meanwhile, Jun had already arrived at their doorstep. When she saw Jun there, her mother's eyes widened. It turned out that Doyeon's mother-in-law had asked her to come over to confirm the truth. Jun first drank a glass of water, but her mother was still trying to get her to cover for Doyeon. Jun directly told her sister to tell the truth sooner rather than later to avoid punishment. She fainted as soon as she left Doyeon. The mother-in-law immediately poured a glass of water over Doyeon. The father-in-law told them to go back to their room first and then said that he would prepare the divorce papers for them. Jun's mother immediately knelt down and apologized when she heard this. Doyeon was shocked when she saw the divorce agreement. The mother-in-law, however, told her to agree quickly. She could not accept that her daughter-in-law was a thief. Doyeon, however, immediately refused. She believed that this was a matter between herself and her husband. She also got sick again after getting married. Doyeon yelled at her mother-in-law, "Do you know how much pressure you are putting on me?" The mother-in-law got up to hit her, but Doyeon grabbed her. Doyeon said, "My parents never hit me. If you dare to hit me, I will not be polite." She pushed her mother-in-law away and left immediately. Then she immediately called her husband. Miho quickly came over and tore up the divorce agreement. Doyeon, however, did not want to live with her mother-in-law anymore. Miho asked her to be patient, as it was not easy for anyone. Doyeon was kicked out of her husband's house and stayed at her parents' house. The next day, her luggage was also sent by her mother-in-law. Even the dowry she was given when she got married was returned. Doyeon could not stand it anymore and went to her mother-in-law. She decided to divorce Miho, but she had to compensate her for the ancestral home as compensation for mental distress. But her mother-in-law thought she was crazy. Doyeon took out a divorce statement that listed all the things her mother-in-law had pressured her to do. After reading it, her mother-in-law tore it up. Doyeon took out another one and said there was more inside. Her mother-in-law angrily tried to do it again, but Doyeon stopped her. She pushed Doyeon to the ground, but Miho happened to see it. Miho said he was leaving the house too. He took Doyeon and they were about to leave when her mother fainted. Doyeon returned to her parents' home and told them that she and Miho would be living there from now on. Then she went to Jun's room and wanted to turn it into a study. When Jun returned after receiving the news, all her things had already been packed. The house where she grew up would no longer have a place for her. But her mother said, "You won't be coming back to live here anyway." Doyeon immediately walked out and said, "From now on, Miho and I will be living here." Jun grabbed her things and left. She walked to the door but then stopped. She thought to herself, "I can't just leave like this." Then she threw her things on the floor. "I bought all the things in this house, but I don't want to take them with me. If you don't want to use them, just throw them away. Go back to your parents' house." Jun sat alone in the courtyard, recalling what her mother had said to her. Jun looked at the moon in the sky and silently shed a tear. On the other side, Miho was just about to push the door to go to the bathroom, but then he heard his mother-in-law's voice from inside. Hearing the voice, Doyeon came out to see what was going on. She blamed herself for the inconvenience of only having one bathroom, but at this time, Miho was in a hurry. Doyeon hurriedly asked her mother if she was ready. At this time, her father also returned from going out. He asked Miho to go to the store to help out for a while. Her mother finally came out of the bathroom at this time. When they arrived at the store, Miho and her father were about to have a drink. Just then, Taemin also arrived at the store. The two sons-in-law were natural enemies. They looked at each other. While his father-in-law is about to make a delivery, Taemin says he can make the delivery, and Miho also rushes to grab the delivery. So the two of them go out together. Miho takes the lead and leaves on the motorcycle, but on the way, he encounters a couple arguing. Miho doesn't seem to think it's a normal argument and goes up to ask what's going on. The woman wants Miho to save her, but the man still wants to hit the woman. Miho grabs his hand and then throws him to the ground with a few moves. He tells the woman to go and call the police first. The man secretly picked up a brick and was about to hit Miho when Taemin appeared and restrained him. The couple went to the police station, but the woman said that they were just a normal couple arguing. Miho understood that the woman was being threatened by her boyfriend, but there was nothing he could do. The two were locked up. Taemin was only a witness, however, and was quickly released. He found the woman who had been killed and wanted her to tell the truth. The woman was afraid of her boyfriend's retaliation. However, after Taemin's continuous persuasion, the woman finally decided to consider it. The next day, Taemin came to see Miho. He asked Miho to reconcile with the other party. However, Miho had no intention of doing so and even asked Taemin to leave. Just as Taemin was about to leave, Miho's father walked over. He even slapped Taemin directly. Taemin ignored him, but he still wanted to hit him. Miho shouted at his father to stop, and then told Taemin to hurry up and leave. Taemin also left without saying a word. The woman finally came to the police station to testify, and Miho was released. Miho went to the entrance of Taemin's shop to apologize to his father, but he didn't have the courage to go in. Just as he was about to leave, he happened to meet Jun, so Miho went inside and sat face to face with Taemin. He wanted to thank Taemin, but didn't know how to say it. Taemin saw that he didn't say anything, so he told him to leave. Miho finally managed to say the words of apology, but Taemin didn't accept his apology. Although Taemin didn't accept Miho's apology, the two longtime enemies have shown signs of reconciliation. In order to win back her daughter, who has been treated differently for many years, the mother made Jun's favorite stewed ribs but accidentally sprained her back, and her sister even blamed Jun, saying that her mother got hurt because of her. Jun was very upset when she heard this. Since she was young, her mother has always favored her sister, and she has never received any love from her mother. In a fit of anger, her mother even poured all the food on the floor and then told Jun to leave. Jun looked at her mother's back and knew she shouldn't have come back. Her mother lay on the bed and thought back to what Jun had said to her. She could only let out a sigh. At that moment, Doyeon called her mother out to dinner. Her mother asked her why she blamed Jun. Doyeon said it was Jun's fault. Her mother got up with difficulty and said, "Why do you blame Jun every day?" Doyeon said that if her mother didn't make ribs, she wouldn't get hurt. Doyeon, who has been spoiled since childhood, breaks a few dishes even when washing the dishes. Her mother tells her to be careful, as it would be bad if she got hurt. Doyeon takes her mother out for a walk. but walks ahead of her, completely ignoring her mother's feelings. Later, she even plays with her phone and accidentally sprains her mother's foot. Her mother scolds her for not being able to concentrate. "Don't you know that I walk slowly?" Doyeon questions her mother why she is angry with her. When she returned home, she wanted to go to the bathroom, but suddenly slipped again. She shouted Doyeon's name. Doyeon, who had just come in, didn't understand why her mother was shouting at her. Her mother told her to tidy up after taking a shower. Doyeon lay on the sofa and fell asleep. Her mother brought the washed clothes to her to hang them out to dry, but she just lay there without moving and made a mess everywhere. Her mother slowly squatted down to clean it up. Doyeon, however, told her mother to find a nanny so that she didn't have to work so hard. Mom said she doesn't know how to live. No wonder she was kicked out of her in-laws' home. Doyeon became furious after hearing this. "I was able to become like this because my mom raised me." Mom raised her hand to hit her, but hesitated. She told Doyeon to live her own life in the future and that she would not care anymore. Mom shed tears of remorse. Doyeon came to find June instead. She wanted June to take care of her mom. June, however, had no intention of going to her mother's house. Doyeon went to the bathroom but accidentally spilled water on someone. Doyeon said sorry, but the woman scolded her. Doyeon heard it and retorted. The woman deliberately spilled water on her, so the two started arguing. In the scuffle, Doyeon accidentally bumped into her stomach. After a while, she was in so much pain that she squatted on the ground. June came in and asked what was wrong. Doyeon said her stomach was in pain. June looked at her and saw that blood was flowing from Doyeon's feet. At this point, Doyeon also realized that something was wrong. June quickly took her to the hospital. However, Doyeon was unable to keep the baby. June looked at her sad sister and could only keep comforting her. Doyeon, however, loudly blamed June. "If it weren't for looking for you to go back and take care of mom, this wouldn't have happened." At this point, June also blamed herself a lot. She quietly left the hospital room and went outside to relieve her pent-up emotions alone, until Miho arrived. June then went to the store to find her father, who told her not to tell her mother anything and told her to go home and help out. June then went to her parents' home, where she cleaned the bathroom, and then helped her mother, who had difficulty walking, to the bathroom. June cooked dinner and took it to her mother's room for her to eat, but her mother told her to go back first and refused her kindness. June said that her mother was just like her sister. "My sister asked me to take care of you, so I came, and now you want me to leave. What do I have to do to make you happy?" Before leaving, June asks her mother to finish eating. The next day, Doyeon is discharged from the hospital and returns home. Her mother then learns what happened. June also arrives early at her mother-in-law's house to help cook nutritious meals. Upon receiving the news, Doyeon's mother-in-law also comes looking for her. As soon as she enters the door, she scolds Doyeon, asking if she is doing this because she is taking care of her mother. June came out of the kitchen to defend her sister, and for the first time, her mother sided with June, while Doyeon tried to defend her mother-in-law, who blamed June for not considering her own feelings. June came out and drank a bottle of drink directly and then squashed the bottle. Doyeon looked disgusted as she ate the porridge her sister cooked, while her mother found it delicious. At this time, June happened to come back. She looked at her sister, who was disgusted, and took the bowl directly. Doyeon, however, said that she didn't have the energy to argue. June also poured the seaweed soup in her bowl. The mother, who had favored her sister since she was young, finally spoke up for June. The mother told Doyeon to apologize to her sister. Doyeon, however, questioned why the mother was treating her this way. She stormed back to her room and began packing her bags. June was tidying up the kitchen when the mother walked out, explaining the reason why she favors Doyeon. "You'll understand when you have children. Mom never hated you, but your sister was born in poor health." Doyeon quietly took her luggage and left. She walked aimlessly on the road, but she didn't realize that she had arrived at her in-laws' house. Doyeon turned around and just wanted to leave, but she happened to meet the nanny. The nanny insisted on dragging her in together. When they arrived at the house, they saw that the mother-in-law was drinking alone, so the two of them clinked glasses. Doyeon also took the opportunity to get close to her. "Mom, can you give me another chance?" After a few glasses, the two of them fell unconscious on the bed together. When the president came in, he found them and slapped them directly. When the mother-in-law saw Doyeon sleeping next to her, she was full of surprise. Doyeon returned to her parents' home and spoke well of the mother-in-law in front of her mother. At this time, June and her husband also came over. Mom was going to help out at the store, and June was preparing tea in the kitchen. Doyeon remembered what her mother had told her, that it was because her mother was incompetent that she treated the two sisters differently. She wanted to apologize to her sister, but she couldn't find the words. At that moment, the house suddenly went dark. The two husbands came over with cakes in their hands. Doyeon said sorry to her sister at this time. June felt that her sister's apology was insincere. The next day, mother-in-law found Doyeon and moved back in. But in the future, she can't lie anymore, and the grudges between the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law were resolved. At this time, Miho's younger sister was dating Taemin's younger brother. When Miho's father found out about their relationship, he fainted. When Taemin's father learned that the girl was his enemy, he also collapsed. Soon, the two families pushed their respective fathers into the hospital. The two enemies also met in the hospital. They sat on either side and negotiated. However, their opinions were the same. They absolutely could not let their children get together. If they broke their promise, they would have to receive punishment. Just as they were about to leave, they saw a pair of bodies being wheeled out. From their conversation, they learned that the girl had died because her parents did not approve of her boyfriend. So the chairman locked his daughter in the basement while she was asleep. Miho and Doyeon found the location of the secret room. They decided to rescue their younger sister. By the time they got Hyejin out, several days had passed. However, Hyun-woo, who was waiting for him outside, had a car accident. He was found and rushed to the hospital, but he lost consciousness due to a concussion. Taemin went to the office and found the chairman. He angrily grabbed the chairman by the collar, thinking that he didn't want his brother to be with his daughter. He deliberately caused Hyun-woo to be injured, but the chairman said that he only sent someone to follow Hyun-woo. He didn't tell anyone to hurt him. Taemin didn't want to believe him and left after making a threat. A little while later, Hyejin also came to her father's office. She angrily questioned her father. How could he imprison his own daughter? What couldn't he do to the son of his enemy? Do you know how scared I was when you locked me in the secret room? If something happens to Hyun-woo, I won't be able to go on living either. Later, Hyejin secretly came to visit Hyun-woo. Just as she held Hyun-woo's hand, Hyun-woo slowly opened his eyes, but he didn't make any other movements. After a doctor's examination, it was discovered that it was only a temporary opening of the eyes. So Hyejin once again found her father. She wanted her father to find the best doctor for Hyun-woo. If she can cure Hyun-woo, she will listen to her father in the future. Her father questioned her about studying abroad. If you can do it, I will definitely find a way to save Hyun-woo. For the sake of her loved one, Hyejin could only agree to her father's request. After a period of treatment, Hyun-woo finally woke up, but at this time, Hyejin was also preparing to study abroad. Just then, a hand grabbed her. Hyun-woo told her to take care of herself when she went abroad. Taemin is making bibimbap for his wife. His mother says, "Your wife can't cook for herself?" After Taemin explains, his mother realizes that Jun is pregnant. They didn't tell their families because of the accident that happened to Taemin's younger brother. Now that he's awake, there's no need to hide it anymore. The mother-in-law apologizes to Jun for her actions. Doyeon is also showing signs of pregnancy. The mother-in-law and father-in-law were overjoyed at the news. The next day, the two sisters came to their parents' house to share their joy. Jun told Doyeon about the dream her grandmother had told her about her pregnancy. But then they started to worry again. Since their in-laws were enemies, their future children would also inherit the feud as the fourth generation. Just as they were feeling depressed about this, Hyejin, who had been sent out of the country, secretly returned. On the other hand, Hyun-woo was also dispirited because he had been forced to break up with his girlfriend. Just as he was about to go for a walk to clear his mind, he happened to run into Hyejin. They went to the beach where they had once dated and promised that they would not be separated again this time. The two secretly got engaged. Even if the two families were enemies, they would not give up. But when they returned home, they were driven away by Hyejin's father. At this time, Hyejin's mother found various medicines in her luggage. While she was distressed for her daughter, she also understood that it was the result of separating the couple. So Mrs. Lin found her husband and had a big fight. However, no matter how worried she was about her daughter, her husband still did not agree to this marriage. While sleeping at night, Mrs. Lin kicked her husband out of bed. Then she took a golf club and chased her husband all the way out of the house. On the other side of the house, Hyun-woo's grandmother also made an important decision. She was going to give up fighting her enemy for the ancestral home and agreed to let her grandson marry her enemy. The grandmother said that only the happiness of the living is the happiness of the whole family. At this time, both families agreed to the marriage of their children. Only the chairman was still bitterly opposed. Jun was knocked to the ground trying to save her sister, but she didn't care about the baby in her stomach. Her sister hurriedly went up to check on the situation, but Jun had already stopped moving. Doyeon was so scared that she didn't know what to do. Soon, Jun slowly woke up and covered her stomach. The two went to the hospital for a checkup, but Doyeon suddenly burst into tears. Soon after, Taemin and Miho arrived, and the sisters embraced. Miho came up to comfort Doyeon, and Taemin came over to ask about Jun's condition. Fortunately, there was no problem with the baby. Taemin finally let out a sigh of relief. Jun had to risk her life to save her sister's baby. Since Doyeon had already lost a child, Doyeon blamed Jun for being reckless. They hugged each other and cried. They finally became sisters who cared for each other. The next day, in order to prevent the unborn children from becoming enemies as well, they came to the office to find the chairman and showed the protest signs they had prepared, to ask the chairman to let the two enemies reconcile. Even the house was filled with protest signs. Everyone was wearing the same yellow clothes. All the family members had agreed to reconcile. Only the chairman was still against it. There were also protest slogans written on everyone's backs. At the dinner table, Everyone held candles to express their dissatisfaction. Even the nanny was wearing a little yellow jacket with the same big words written on the back. The president was so angry that he refused to eat. He went to the ancestral grave to vent his anger, but he fell asleep in front of the grave. A man happened to find him there. The man poked the president's nostrils and found that he was still alive. So he looked at the president's hands. When the president woke up, he wanted to check the time, but found that his watch was gone. His mobile phone and wallet were not in his pockets. Even his car was not left for him. There were still dozens of kilometers to go home. He could only go to the road to stop a car. But no one wanted to help him. After finally finding a phone booth, he discovered 2 big words on the ground, out of order. He finally saw a student and hurriedly chased after him. But when the girl saw him, she was directly scared away. The chairman, however, was just discovered by Hyunwoo, who happened to be passing by. He saw a car stop and hurriedly got in to catch a ride. The chairman then realized that it was his future son-in-law that he had rejected. Hyunwoo told him to get in the car first. When he got home, the chairman changed. He not only agreed to his daughter's wedding, but also returned the ancestral home to Taemin's father. Soon, a few months passed. This day is the day the 2 families hold the wedding. The bride and groom are worshipping in the hall. But Jun suddenly feels a pain in her stomach. Doyeon also reacted soon after. Taemin, with a face full of anxiety, comforts Jun and tells her to try breathing deeply. On the other side, Miho also teaches Doyeon the same method. However, Doyeon is in so much pain that she grabs his neck. Jun also grabbed Taemin's hair. Outside the delivery room, the 2 husbands were so anxious that they kept stamping their feet. Before long, a loud baby's cry sounded. It was Jun giving birth to a healthy princess. Everyone was suddenly overwhelmed with emotion and didn't know what to do. But Doyeon, who had been in poor health since childhood, was still in labor. It was nightfall in the blink of an eye. Everyone was anxiously waiting. Just then, the baby's cry sounded again. Doyeon also gave birth to a healthy baby girl. However, Doyeon suffered from postpartum depression. Her mother comforts her by telling her about the experience of giving birth to their twins. June returns home. Her grandmother happily holds the baby. Doyeon's father-in-law and mother-in-law are also overjoyed. Her grandmother has also made a final decision. She donates the ancestral home she has returned. Because this ancestral home has caused 3 generations of enemies, she doesn't want this kind of chaos in the future, so she just donated it. After a year of living together, Doyeon's depression had also healed. The twin sisters no longer fought whenever they met. In the blink of an eye, the 2 babies turned 1-year-old. On this day, the extended family gathered happily together, and also looked forward to seeing what their own babies would choose for their first grasping. Okay, that's the end of today's story.